Hey Gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I'm Corey.
And I'm Matt, and each week this podcast will serve as a catalyst for discussion on all sorts of topics that grind our gears, rev our engines, or just need a bit more conversation.
And on this week's episode, we are talking all things Corvette. Yet again, we will be recapping a little trip I took to the SVRA weekend at the Circuit of the Americas, where Sean Jones of Corvette Invasion was putting on a miniature version called the Corvette Corral, where we saw over 300 Corvettes in one location, which is pretty awesome. If you have not already done it, go back and listen to episode 28, where we interview Sean Jones and talk about the Corvette Invasion, his history with Corvettes, and all things Corvette with Sean. That's episode 28. We will put a link in the show notes. And it was a pretty fun weekend this weekend, Matt. And I am very sad that you were unable to join me, but next time, right?
Yeah,
next time.
Yeah.
Last weekend was the Sport Vintage Racing Association's weekend in the Circuit of the Americas Raceway in Austin, Texas, and Garage Talk went down there with ETX Marketing, my wife, helping out and taking some pictures and video for us. And I'll put the link in the show notes for her episode as well. That was a pretty fun episode, not going to lie. A little biased, just a little biased that it is my wife. But anyway, we were invited by Sean Jones to come out and check out one of his shows. Unfortunately, due to the COVID, he had to cancel this year's Corvette Invasion, which is, like I said in the intro, the largest Corvette show in the state of Texas. And after talking to a few people around the Corvette Corral this weekend, came to find out the corral's maybe like a third of how big a Corvette Invasion is. So as crazy as it was to see 300-ish Corvettes all in one place, because I don't think they were all there at the same time for various different reasons, I can only imagine like 900 to 1,000 Corvettes in one location.
Oh, it'd be insane. Yeah.
But I have cut together a highlight reel of some of our pictures and video that is up on our YouTube channel right now. The link is on our website, so head on over to gtgaragetalk.com and you'll find a link to our YouTube channel and check out that video. There were some awesome rigs there, and I would be hard-pressed to tell you exactly which one was my all-time favorite if I had to pick, because I don't know. There were too many good ones.
That Captain America one was insane.
Yes.
The detail in that was just incredible.
So naturally, he's fairly good at marketing. He had his YouTube channel plastered on his windows, so you can check him out at Brink of Speed on YouTube. I've started following some of his stuff, trying to catch up with all that this Corvette has been through, see some before and after of the theming that they did on this rig to make it look like Captain America. Unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to him. So the way the event worked was for those who traveled in, they met at the host hotel for the Corvette Corral, which was in Bastrop, Texas. And they paraded all of those Corvettes with a police escort the 20-something minutes from Bastrop, Texas to the Circuit of the Americas. And we had some complications with our hotel. We'll just leave it at that. We did not leave at the time that we wanted to in the morning. We were staying at a different hotel, and we did not quite make it to the hotel in Bastrop for this event in time, because we were driving to it, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot. Oh, okay, we missed the Corvettes. So we turned around and met them back at the Circuit of the Americas, and just watching Corvette after Corvette after Corvette after Corvette drive in was amazing. And kind of surreal because, like I said, I had a hard time picking my favorite, and there were several strong contenders, both new and old. Steve Rogers, as I'm calling him, the Captain America C8 Corvette, ranked pretty highly up there. There was another wrapped and themed, military-themed C8 that was there that you would see in the intro of our YouTube video wrap-up. It was pretty awesome. It looked like it was basically looked like riveted panels of metal together, like a fuselage of a plane. And
Nice.
It was pretty awesome. Then, I mean, every generation was represented there. There were a few first gen C1s there. Second generation is my personal favorite, and that's when the Stingray name really came out. And there were several beautiful examples, including a dark green one that I think was my wife's favorite. And it had a 427 under the hood, so I'd be okay if we we could have taken that one home. Me personally, I would have liked a little flashier color. It was a dark forest green with a white stripe down the middle, but it was a beautiful example of the second generation Corvette.
427, so it had a Ford motor in it.
No.
No? That's 427. That's Ford motor.
Chevy had 427s back in the 60s too.
I know.
So,
I got to tease you a little bit. I didn't get to go, okay?
There were a few C3. There was a C3 there right next to one that I spent a lot of time with that had a 454 in it. So there was a lot of displacement there. There was a lot of horsepower there as well. But the part I was most excited about was actually getting to spend some time with the C8, the current mid-engine Corvette, because prior to this event, I had seen two. One was driving to see some friends in Lindale, and we're just going opposite directions. So I was like, oh, that's C8 Corvette. First one I'd ever seen in passing. And that's all I got to see of it. The second one was on the way to the event. The 5-hour drive from Tyler to Austin, and we passed up a dealership. I can't even remember where it was. Not a big dealership at all. And they had a white C8 sitting right there on the front porch, basically. I was like, oh, Corvette. So that was my experience with the C8 in person prior to this event. And I was not let down. There were many examples. Like I said, we've already referenced Captain Rogers, as I'm calling him, Brink of Speed. And the other wrapped one, I did not get any more information on that one. But we had some convertibles there, which that was a late addition to the 2020 year model Corvette. I'm not entirely sure I would order a convertible because you're really not getting that much more open air feel and you can't see the engine. And I'm sorry, if I've got a mid-engine car, you're going to be able to see it behind me. So
yeah,
that's personal preference. But pretty awesome experience. A lot going on. I just recommend heading over to our YouTube channel just to see the sheer number of Corvettes that were there. There was another reason I was excited about this trip. And Sean had arranged with one of his good friends, Rick, thank you, Rick, for us to actually take one out ourselves. And we were given the keys to a red 3LT non-Z51, so it was more spec towards comfort. It didn't have the sport suspension or anything, but it did have the upgraded exhaust, so it had more power. And it's still a mid-engine Corvette, so it was fast. And the original plan was that we would take a parade lap around the circuit of America's Raceway, which did not pan out. I was mildly upset, but I found out that was not going to happen while I was riding alongside Rick in his C8 Corvette. So if you're going to be given bad news, might as well be given to you while you're in a Corvette. And it's a good place for bad news. And basically, every car that left the corral to do a parade lap was handed the exact same set of rules, which said, don't leave a gap to speed up and don't do anything stupid. Your personal insurance will not cover you on the racetrack. These rules are here for your safety. Somebody was not smart, and they hit the wall. And that one bad apple spoiled the bunch for everybody, and they shut down the parade laps. So we were actually waiting in line to go through when that happened. And as we were making our way back to the parking lot, he was like, hey, well, you drove all this way. You still want to drive it? Yes, sir, I do. And so he handed me the keys, and luckily for us, the Circuit of America's parking complex is huge, and there are a lot of long straightaways and long winding roads to get from lot to lot to lot. So my wife and I got to take it out just for a short drive out and back, tested the acceleration on it a little bit, and I was not a good husband. I did a mean thing, not purposefully. I was behind the wheel of a Corvette, and my brain wasn't firing on all cylinders, pun intended. I did a quick acceleration run. I didn't do 0 to 60. I let off at like 35, 40 miles an hour, but I did not warn Holly about what I was about to do before I did it. And she is trying to be as professional as she can, holding the camera equipment. And yeah, so I'm sorry, babe. I did not mean to scare you or freak you out with that. That being said, probably one of the fastest cars I've been in. Yep, no, it definitely the fastest car I've ever been in. I've been in more powerful vehicles. The Ram TRX had 702 horsepower, but also saddled with a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave my my comments on driving the C8 Corvette right there, because we are also working on a YouTube video for that, and you'll just have to stay tuned. Go and subscribe to our channel, and you'll get more on that. Corvette related, you and I are working on a secret project that we can't quite give all the details away on yet, because there are still a lot of details yet to be ironed out. Let's just suffice it to say a Corvette will be involved, a road trip will be involved, and it may or may not be going back home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good way.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it there. But you'll want to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the full impact of what we are working on that project. More yet to come. I hate to be secretive about it. It's just where we are in, like I said, in working out some of the details. There are a lot of moving parts, and I don't want to sell it just yet until it's all settled. But yeah. Very excited for what we've got coming up. That being said, while I was away on this trip, you were able to write a blog post on gtgaragetalk.com about a rig that I believe you were probably a little more excited about than myself, though it definitely has me thinking, if I were in the market, would I want one? So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about the latest from, Germany.
Yeah. So towards the end of last week, Volkswagen released their update to the Golf R, which is it's a GTI but more.
Yes.
So it's got a little more power. It's got a little more torque. It's got a little nicer interior. It's got a little different front fascia and rear apron and things of those nature. Just all in all, a little nicer, a little more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Refined, I believe is how you described it.
Yeah. Refined and a little more, flat out blanking on the word. Exclusive is the word I was looking for. A little more exclusive than your typical GTI. It's also all-wheel drive. So back in, and I believe it was 2005.
Yeah.
I think it was 2005 when the first R came out, and it was an R32.
Yeah.
Volkswagen at the time had a 6-cylinder that was not quite an inline, but not quite a V 6-cylinder, a 3.2 liter, and it compared to the Turbo 4 and the GTI was quite a bit more powerful, quite a bit more torquey, and so they used it along with an all-wheel drive setup to make kind of this ultimate hot hatch type of a vehicle, and so that was with the Mark IV back in 2005, and every generation of Golf since then has had its own R model specific vehicle that's been, again, the more refined, the all-wheel drive, the more power, exclusive type Golf. And,
basically their way of squeezing a little more money out of you, the consumer. Because
pretty much
they're rarer, and there are some benefits to having the R. Like you said, it's the GTI Plus, basically.
Yeah. In particular for the Mark 8 is the Golf has finally crested the 300 horsepower mark. It's at 315 on the power and 310 foot-pounds of torque, which in a car that weighs 3,000 pounds is an enormous amount of power.
Yeah, and with all-wheel drive.
All 4 wheels.
Yeah. So I remember when I fell in love with cars, and those of you who have been fans of the podcast for a while know it was the 4th generation Camaro, and my brother and I were trying to figure out how we could put our money together and buy a 98 Camaro SS. And the 98 Camaro SS had 315 horsepower from a V8 engine to the rear wheel. And I'd say, I can't remember exactly, but I'd say it weighed about the same as what the Golf does. But the Golf has got a back seat, and it's much more comfortable, much more refined, and could be your daily driver in a way that a 98 to 2002 Camaro never could. And it is ridiculous what they are able to get out of engines nowadays. And what we used to think was insane is now just insane for a different class of vehicle. Yeah.
For reference sake, there was only about 1,000 pounds more weight in the Camaro than the Golf.
So there you go.
Give or take a few there.
Yeah. She's a big girl. What can I say?
So the packaging is great. You can get them in 2-door or 4-door. Mm-hmm. And even though Volkswagen has arguably the best dual clutch automatic on the market with that DSG, there is also still a manual option.
Yes.
Which manuals. I think is, for an enthusiast car, you have to keep that. Yeah. You just have to. It's I don't know. I think GM shot themselves in the foot when they didn't put a manual in the Corvette. So
I believe we've covered this on the channel, but I've got to say it just because you've thrown it out there. The mid-engine Corvette will never, in its current configuration, design, structural platform, will never have a manual transmission because they made a trade-off. And anyone who has been in or around a mid-engine vehicle knows that the extra bracing that has to go in around the doors to support all the weight right there behind the passengers makes it a little difficult to get in and out of. And Chevy engineers said, you know what? Our target market may be a little bit older. The typical Corvette buyer probably wouldn't like that as much. So how can we make it strong and stiff without having these crazy, insane door sills that you have to climb over? And to to that end, they basically made the center tunnel the strong backbone of the vehicle, thus eliminating any mechanical linkage running up and through the
Murdered
tunnel.
the manual.
Yeah. I will say, just one of the first things I noticed when we took off riding in the C8 Corvette, just driving it like we would drive it around town, and I've heard this is a complaint of most, if not the Corvettes in particular, dual clutch automatics, that it was a little lurchy at low speeds. It's geared for the track. It's a high-powered V8 sports car. And so just something to take into consideration. That being said, it did not let me down when I put my foot to the floor. And like you said, VW does have one of the best. Do you want to even try and pronounce the German name for their dual clutch transmission?
No.
The DSG. We'll just call it the DSG.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Let's see. I'm gonna look it up just to see if I can
see if you can murder it.
Yeah, direct shift gearbox. That's how you pronounce it. No, that's not doing that. There is a German word for it, but
yes.
We wouldn't be G-rated anymore if I tried to say it. So
we don't want to put that E by this episode. So
no.
Yeah. No. It's a fun little ride. I've been looking at just, for the fun of it, because I drive a compact car, looking at hot hatches just for the fun of it. And VW has the best that there is, with automakers like Ford pulling out altogether. Chevy has quit making the Cruze. Ford has quit making the Focus. There aren't many left. You've got the Civic Type R, which
isn't really a hot hatch.
Yeah, and I've never really been a fan of the current generation styling. It's funky, to say the least.
It's odd.
The Golf just has classic styling that I believe will age very well, where the new Civics, 20 years from now, look back and be like, yeah, that was a weird time frame for Honda design. I don't know what they were thinking. So that's just me. Beauty in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
I think Toyota has a great platform with the Camry to potentially have a hot hatch segment, especially with the performance side that they're pushing with the Camry at the moment, and the Corolla too.
Yeah.
I don't see them pulling the trigger on that because of how well their cars are selling at the moment.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to see a decent hot hatch come out of Toyota with the reliability as well as the power.
Yeah. So it's interesting, some of the wars that we have going on in the automotive world right now. It seems like all eyes are on electric and split on off-road, high-powered, crazy rigs. And that's where a lot of manufacturers are sinking their money right now. GM has gone all in on the electric bandwagon. We've covered that in previous episodes. They're partnered with LG Chem and building an all-new factory in Ohio for all their future Ultium battery-powered vehicles like the Hummer EV, which kind of checks both boxes. It's crazy, high-powered off-road and electric, but I don't think it's very attainable for the masses. As we covered in last week's episode, was it last week? 2 weeks ago? Last week. It's a little pricey, and you could get a couple Raptors for the price of one now sold out first edition Hummer EV. So there's a trade-off anywhere you go, I guess. But
Oh yeah.
We'll be.
And there's a lot of fun to be had out of the Golfs too. You sent me one a couple of months ago, from one of the local dealers in the East Texas area.
I really wanted
had one, and I mean, low miles. Mm-hmm. It had a manual. It was a 4-door. It was a GTI. It was the dark gray color. I mean, there was a whole lot right about that car, including the price. I mean, it was like what, $14,000 or something like that, and it had less than 60,000 miles on it. I mean, it was beautiful.
I think it had less than 30,000 miles on it. It was really low
it may
mileage.
have had yeah, it was down there, but to have that fun factor in a vehicle like that you can still put the kid in the back of, put the dog in there and go to the park, or load up your suitcases and leave for the weekend or whatever, to me is still very enticing as an enthusiast to have something that is both practical and fun. Yeah, you got to have the fun factor.
You and I find ourselves in a very similar boat in that both of our wives don't really like hatchbacks. So here you and I are drooling over these new rigs that are coming out, and the Golf R is no exception. Knowing that the only way we will get one is as a press vehicle. So VW, if you are listening, help us out.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'd love to spend some time behind the wheel of that Golf R.
Yep.
Or even a GTI. I mean, just to experience the latest generation of Golfs. It's been an incredible platform for so long that every time Volkswagen tweaks and refines it always makes it better. It's never worse than the previous generation.
Some would say I don't know VW speak, but there was the big, round, bug-eyed version. I'm going to get plastered by the VW faithful on this one. I wasn't too much a fan of that one. It was the last generation or the one before? Doesn't matter. But yeah.
There's always going to be those things that certain groups don't like. Yeah. Design cues or what have you. But as far as what the vehicle is itself, the heart of the vehicle, the capability of the vehicle, to me, they've always gotten better. Yeah. And that's coming from somebody who doesn't like technology either. So I would lean more towards the late 70s,
the original,
early 80s, the good ones. The ones that didn't have traction control and ABS and airbags.
The ones that you can fix with a hammer, no matter what the problem.
Exactly. But they have improved them and refined them over the years, and the 2022 is no exception. It is refinement. It is brilliant German execution of the hot hatch, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, we're making connections, and we will bring you a review of one at some point. To that end, be sure, I know I've plugged it in this episode a lot, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like I said, we've got some stuff coming that you won't want to miss out on. We also have some stuff coming up here pretty soon on the podcast that you won't want to miss out on. We've got a fun interview next week. Matt, do you want to lead into that one any?
Yeah, so next week we have the privilege to sit down with the ladies at Goal Life Nutrition. It's a health food or health drink place just here locally in the East Texas area. They're brand new starting out. We're brand new starting out, and we've got some family friend connections with them, and so we thought it would be fun to sit down and talk cars with them, and they can talk tea and health with us, and vice versa, and kind of share some audience and some tea and some.
And they've got some interesting stories, right?
Oh yeah. Deb inherited a Mustang from her brothers,
that poor Mustang.
And it was, by the time I got to her, it was just flat wore out. It was that poor car, but
it did some construction work in another life, and
Oh yeah. That thing. We'll definitely have to have her share with that one some of the stories that go behind it. But it should be a fun episode, and should have plenty of laughs. We'll leave it at that.
Yep. And then 2 weeks from now, we are finalizing details of an interview with Joe Rady of Rady's Rides on YouTube. He exhausts me. We subscribe to his channel and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. And my goodness, he is pumping out the content. And we're going to have to like full sprint to catch up to him, Matt. But
boy, no kidding.
He puts out some good stuff, good reviews. I met him at the Texas Truck Rodeo event that I went to a few weeks back, and we just started talking. I said, hey, would you like to come on our podcast and tell your story of how you got to be where you're riding around on a racetrack with Mario Andretti? Like, tell me that story, please. And he says he absolutely loves coming on podcasts and sharing his journey. So very much looking forward to hearing from Joe and just all the crazy stories that he's got to tell. And for us here at Garage Talk, I've been alluding to it. I can't give you too many details. We've got big stuff coming. All I can do is say, head on over to gtgaragetalk.com. On our blog page, you can actually create an account where you will be notified anytime we put news out from the car world. We're getting press releases every day of exciting stuff happening all around. This is the time of year when automakers are doing all the new year model stuff. So it's just one thing after another. So if you've got that going on, you can find us on social media and see what we're driving, what we're doing, what we're into. And you can find our YouTube channel and see what kind of content and stuff we're putting out for you in the internet world over there. And then, of course, we've got the podcast. You can go catch up on any episodes that you've missed. And like I said, go back and listen to Sean's episode where he's talking about Corvette Invasion. We're looking forward to summer of 2021 for the new Corvette Invasion for 2021. And other than that, until next time, bye.